Hello, everybody. We are very happy to be here, the Romanian delegation, for the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. It is organized every year in New York by the United Nations. Today, we are here to talk about challenges and opportunities for refugee women in Romania. But before I allow my invited guests here to take the floor, I would like to say a few words about our partners who supported us to be here. I will start with the Association for Dialogue and Universal Values, located in Bucharest, a great association and NGO and an association that deals with cultural activities. You will see a very short video concerning these activities. We also want to thank very much to our sponsor, Mr. Fatih Gürsoy, and also Lumina Educational Institution. And we also like to mention the director of the association, Mr. Mustafa Oz, and also Mrs. Gürsoy, sorry, who is here with us. And because she is a very supportive person for all women in need. I suggest to start with the video concerning the association, then we move forward with our discussion. Thank you very much for being with us. As you could see from the video, the association deals with a lot of volunteering activities. And Mrs. I know you saw is the leader of all these activities. So thank you very much. I would also like to mention the other body that is linked to United Nations and that invited us here, the Journalists and Writers Foundation, who organizes this year 12 panels with participants for 17 countries. So we are very proud to be here and very, very honored. I would like also to introduce myself. I'm Ramona Mihaela. I am a full professor in academic environment. I teach literature, gender studies, and women's studies. And I also work for the National Agency of Equal Opportunities between men and women. And we deal with a lot of projects linked to NGOs. Concerning violence against women and gender studies and gender equality. I'm here with my colleagues to discuss about refugee women in Romania. And I would like to introduce, first of all of them, just telling their names. And then when they have the floor, they will tell you more about their activities. So I will start with Jimena Reis here next to me, and then Corina Jacob, sorry. Then here I have we have Madalina Banu and Simona. Sorry for this. Because we are a group and we call only on our names, I always forget the family names. Thank you very much. For the beginning, I will give the floor to Magdalena Bani. And before this, I will read a few things about her activity. She studied law at the University of Bucharest, and currently she works in social assistance as head of the service for preventing domestic violence at the General Directorate of Social Assistance of Metropolitan Bucharest. The service which she coordinates works with 2 shelters for victims of domestic violence, an informational and support center for women, and an assistance center for family aggressors. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, the specialists who work in this service offers support and humanitarian assistance to mother-child couple from Ukraine. She's going to tell us the opportunities that Ukrainian mothers have had in Bucharest since February 2022. Please, Magdalena.
Thank you, Ramona. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. So, since the war started, the General Directorate of Social Assistance of Bucharest has played an active role in providing humanitarian support for people that are were forced to leave their country as a result of the events generated by the military invasion. Taking into consideration that the main category that managed to leave Ukraine were women and children, at first we organized in Bucharest North Railway Station an information and support point, and also 4 areas exclusively intended for them, where they received food, coffee, water, fruit, and any other products they needed. At the same time, we managed to develop several shelters for them, shelters that hosted 1,000 refugees. In these shelters, women and children received food, clothing, footwear, children's product, medicine, hygiene products, and personal care, and of course, psychological counseling. In addition to these basic services, we also provide a series of services that are adapted to their particular needs, as workshops and playgrounds for children, support for purchasing transport tickets, and so on and so forth. Humanitarian assistance at the accommodation level has also been extended to locations where people from Ukraine have to wait for long periods of time, like Airport Henry Condo in Bucharest, where we managed to offer over 20,000 packages of rolled food. 3 locations were also made available for the efficient management of donation, at the level of which about 600 tons of clothing were collected and distributed. One of the main needs that we identified by working directly with this category, meaning women and children from Ukraine, is the need to develop daycare centers. So this is exactly what we did. First, last year in April, we developed two day centers, Ominis and Perla, where 100 children benefit from age-specific, creative, recreational, and socializing facilities, and also food and snacks. Second, in July last year, we developed Prepare After School, a place where daily over 120 Ukrainian children over the age of 3 are cared for and supervised. In order to facilitate access to the online education system, according to the Ukrainian school curriculum, refugee children in Bucharest who are not enrolled in the Romanian school system can access, starting with September last year, the support center for children and women Pipera was developed. This center provides support for Ukrainian refugee children to participate in kindergarten, take part in non-formal education activities, and learn Romanian. At the beginning of September, a new support center called Bludat Kogelnicianu was opened, providing essential and support services for Ukrainian mothers, such as registration in the Primero platform. This is a platform that includes all the information about accommodation and or communities where families with Ukrainian children or Ukrainian children that are accompanied by adults other than their parents are hosted, while children can play in a clean and safe environment. Last but not least, we developed Prime Hub Maria Center, a complementary service of early education meant to stimulate the development of children's potential according to their needs and the families from which they come, based on the Primo Kids student methodology. After 1 year of doing our best to ensure the well-being of women and children in no shelters, I came to a personal conclusion that I want to share with you guys. That is, women refugees and women victims of domestic violence have surprisingly similar needs. Among the basic individual needs that they have is not facing the situation alone and getting help and guidance with their children. This is a key factor for both situations, and it is mandatory for a successful integration into society. Thank you.
Yeah, Madalina, thank you very much. So we could see how many things the Romanian authorities managed to do for the Ukrainian refugee women. And we hope you will increase your activity and do as many things as you can do. Now I will give the floor to Corina Iacov. She is currently the advisor of the Deputy Mayor of Bucharest. Her responsibilities include advising on public policies of social issues and education, researching the legal framework, interfacing with organizations from civil society and other interested parties. She's coordinating and supervising the activity of institutions under the authority of the Deputy Mayor, and given her experience as a communicator, she's also in charge of communicating the policies and the results of the general public. As part of her activity, she has been managing the Ukrainian refugee crisis from the very first day of the war by coordinating with the leadership of the City Directorate of Social Assistance, as well as with other social assistance institutions, local volunteers, and NGOs, corporate donors, and international relief agencies. Corina, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramona. Hello, everyone. I am honored to be here and share with you the experience of managing the refugee crisis in Bucharest. Since February 24, 2022, the world has been confronted with one of the largest refugee movements since World War II. More than 8 million people have been displaced by the war in Ukraine outside of the country borders, and many more millions within Ukraine with over 3 million refugees entering Romania since the beginning of the war. More than 100,000 people are still seeking humanitarian assistance from the central and local governments and partners, including civil society, the private sector volunteers, and NGOs. Over half of them have relocated to Bucharest, the country's capital, and about 80% of them are women and children. After the first few months since the start of the war, when the efforts of the local administration have focused on emergency response, which means ensuring basic needs like accommodation, food, clothing, hygiene products, and so on, we are now in the stage of adapting the social services that we provide and develop services to meet the medium and long-term needs of Ukrainian women. Let me also share presentation. Yes. On February 25th, so the very next day after the war started in Ukraine, we had already set up an info point at the Bucharest Central Railway Station because we knew we would need a single point of contact for the people in transit. This was a very intense experience for us. But we learned a great deal about what the immediate needs of the Ukrainian women are and what we have to do to address them through our social services. I would like to share now with you two of the projects which we are most proud of and which are telling for the challenges faced by the Ukrainian women in Bucharest and for what we need to do at the local level to turn these challenges into opportunities for them and their children. The first would be the free supermarket project, which started no later than the beginning of March. We have a spacious former exhibition space that we turned into a free supermarket where we offer Ukrainian mothers and children access to free basic goods and services such as non-perishable food, water, clothes, baby products, free access to mental health care, to counter the trauma of the war and leaving a lifetime behind. Free access to dental care and cash-based assistance. In this integrated social services center, we also offer support to get temporary protection in Romania, as well as information point where trained employees answer questions and offer reliable and updated information in Russian about the social services that are available to the Ukrainian women in Bucharest. Over 250,000 people have visited the free supermarket until now, with an average of about 1,300 people per day. It is very important to mention that we have managed to keep this project ongoing and extended to the scale with invaluable support from the international humanitarian agencies such as UNHCR, UNICEF, the International Organization for Migration, international private organizations like World Vision, CARE, Salvation Army, the Red Cross, and many local NGOs. To sustain this effort, we require tons of goods to be delivered each day and excellent logistics and preparation. This means a lot of work and dedication from our team at the General Directorate of Social Assistance, like my colleague Madalina here, who have overcome all the obstacles that are thrown at them and have learned on the go what needs to be done in order to support the Ukrainian women and children without any prior experience in dealing with such large-scale refugee waves. Just that month, I was lucky enough to be in Poland at a conference, share best share best practices with other municipalities on the border of the armed conflict. And I learned that the free supermarket project is already looked at as the best practice to be implemented for the refugees living in Polish cities as well. The second project I would like to share with you, which has proven its importance and usefulness to the integration of Ukrainian women, is the Pipera School and After School program. Just after the initial wave of refugees slowed down a little bit, we knew that we had to develop child-oriented services in order to promote medium and long-term family integration. Our vision at the Bucharest City Hall has been that we need to have an educational integration process, whether it follows the Romanian or the Ukrainian curriculum. This contributes to the well-being of the children who need to continue their learning and be among peers, but it also brings huge benefits to the women as well. Being able to take time off from childcare during the day is a necessary condition for women to be able to find and keep jobs, to meet local people, learn the language, and access other opportunities. So again, with the help of local NGOs and the funding from international humanitarian agencies, we offer spaces with all the necessary equipment for children to continue online schooling, kindergarten and elementary school classes in Ukrainian, warm meals, as well as an after-school program where children can attend Romanian and English language classes while their mothers are up to it. Of course, there is much more to be done to help women take back their power while living in Bucharest. We are looking at organizing more job fairs and working closely with our beneficiaries at the Romania Free Supermarket in order to convince them to attend. We have to develop more daycare centers and services that allow mothers to work, more Romanian language classes, professional training programs, more activities for teenagers, more psychological support in their native tongue, to name just a few examples. The Bucharest municipality is actively involved in the process of integration of women from Ukraine, and we are adapting our services according to any changes and emerging needs. We are, however, also aware of needs that are beyond the reach of the local administration, and we keep offering information and feedback to central authorities that are responsible for refugee integration policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Corina, for this detailed information. And as you can see, the authorities have done a lot of improvements to this refugee women situation. I would also like to few things from the point of view of the National Agency for People of the Community between the land. And to talk very shortly on behalf of Dominica Popescu, who is a PhD candidate for the Romanian Academy, and also Secretary of State at the National Agency for People of the Community between Women and Men. Institutional body that belongs to the Ministry of Family, Youth and Equal Opportunities. She is conducting her research on violence against women, and she, at the moment, the agency is running 4 projects concerning violence against women. She mentioned only one of them, called Project Venus. This project started as pillar for all women who suffer for violence against them, domestic violence, sexual violence, and any kind of other violences. This project, due to this project, there have been 42 sheltering houses open in each county of Romania. And these are dedicated to women who can go there and have also, besides all the bare necessities, daily bare necessities, they can also have psychological support and also guidelines for being included and integrated in the working market. This project also developed a helpline, which is non-stop open, and there are 5 persons, psychologists, who answer to these phones, and they anonymously direct all these calls to other institutions like police or counseling bodies or other hospitals and so on. During this project, over 7,000 people were trained then many of them benefited from these services. And there have been thousands of calls in terms of and in terms of Ukrainian refugee women who came to Romania, the agency signed a protocol of collaboration with Dmitry Cantemir Christian University, Faculty of Foreign Languages, where students who speak Russian or Ukrainian students, because there were a lot of Ukrainian students also who came to Romania, they offered as volunteer to help the people who answer to the helpline. So the agency also developed some other cooperation agreements with other bodies in order to help the refugees. The agency also with the director of the Department of Violence Against Women, also helped a lot in organizing things to help these refugee women. So as we all three of us who have already spoken by now, we presented a lot of activities that all the institutions have managed to conduct, but also we mentioned the NGOs that helped us in all these activities. Further, I think we need to improve some things, not only me, I think all of us in this. And in this respect, I will ask Simona to take the floor and tell us a few things about how we can do more and more things. Before this, I would like to introduce her. Simona is a doctor in political sciences. She's an expert on gender equality and women human rights, and also a journalist at the Mediapax news agency. Simona has done the first national research on harassment and violence in public spaces in Romania and the law sanctioning this form of abuse. Please.
Thank you. Yeah, Ramona. Hi, everyone. Good morning or good evening. Okay. So, from the Ukrainian women refugee perspective, I think that we have to shift a little framework and perspective. We don't have to see them as victims, but survivors. I see them from what I've had a chance to see in the centers that, okay, they are forcibly displaced, but they're fighters, they're very confused, but caring for others, and afraid but aware and taking action. We know also that when refugee women is sexually assaulted, this is a big problem. Sexual violence is a taboo subject. Also in Ukraine, but also in Romania. And the framework that I think it's vital is intersectionality and grassroots approach. These frameworks are ethical and they are strong, and we can help and address refugee women problems in a correct and proper way, because from what I've seen in centers are young women, but also Roma women, old, sick, alone, illiterate. So all of these identities, they come on top of each other, and
they have to be addressed. And they are addressed from my point of view, from what I think. Okay. The real challenges, I think there are many, there are many challenges. For refugee women, they feel constant fear, they have PTSD. There are women that when they come to centers, beaten with bruises, with broken bones, because we know it's hard to address domestic violence in patriarchal society. Some of refugee women, unfortunately, are trafficked or in danger to be kidnapped and trafficked by Ukrainian men. They're lied about getting the papers easy, but once in Romania, they get to be trafficked, forced to work as escort for sex. Accommodation problems, it's a big problem in Romania. There are landlords that offer accommodation for single women, young children, and pet free. Or are promised accommodation in exchange of free domestic work, cooking, cleaning, and this gives way sometimes for sexual aggression from the landlords. A bit about media in Romania. I am impressed with all the work that Romanian authorities and NGOs are doing in this regard. And also, my surprise is that media and many journalists are doing a great job representing the stories and their voices in a great and ethical manner. So I think we journalists have this burden maybe and opportunity to represent their experience, because women refugees are having a hard time. So I have two testimonials from two young and powerful women. One is translator in the Center for Refugees, and one is in charge of the center. So I want to hear their voices as well, because I think it's so important to have this opportunity to see their experiences.
Hello, my name is Emilia. Hello, my name is Emilia, and I'm a translator in a center for refugees located in Bucharest, Romania since March 2022. All the time I have spent to the Center for Refugees, and that's a lot. I can really describe you with one word. It's challenging. It is very challenging. You don't know what is going to happen. And really, I was not prepared for that. I don't think any one of us was prepared for that, for what's coming. Since I came from a poor country, I can easily empathize with people's problem and people's situations that they are going through. And thousands of people, they come and go, and each one of them have their problem. You need to get a solution to their problem right here, right now. You don't have time to analyze. You don't have time to make a decision. You don't have time to think. My biggest struggle was that a lot of people come for help, and physically I could not provide that help for each one of them. Really, in that moment, I really understood what is my role for them. And when people are dejected, when people are depressed, when people are going through things that they're going right now in a foreign country, between foreign people, with a foreign language, that someone is laughing, someone is crying, someone is screaming, it's really just sounds for them. They don't understand what is going on. They are very, very, very confused. In those moments, they need something stable. They need to climb up. They need to believe in themselves. They need to believe that there is a future for their kids, and they need to fight for that. Women are going through hell at the moment. They need to be, on the one hand, they need to be their future for their kids with the education. On the other hand, they need to be motivation for their husbands that are fighting right there, and they are absolutely forgetting about their problems, about their mental health, about their inner peace. There is nothing like that. In these moments, I really hope I can provide as many options as solution for them, and I can be that stable stairs that they can climb on and to make the right decisions on the right time. And this world, people like us, in this madness, we give them a hope to humanity. We give them a hope to a better life, and I hope each one of us understands what our role is in society.
Hello, my name is Stefania. I'm the coordinator of a public shelter for Ukrainian refugees here in Bucharest, Sector 2. I remember how it was when the center opened a few days after the war started, and I wish I would not remember. It was like a nightmare. At the beginning, we thought it will pass soon, it will end soon. And all of us, the public administration and from the public institution, social care, and even the police, everybody, we basically moved our lives in the center and lived there for weeks. And after 3 months, we realized that how the time passed and that we are overwhelmed, we are exhausted, facing all these waves of Ukrainian refugees coming so scared in the cold with children and a lot of women. And then we thought, look, we have to organize ourselves better to resist for longer time. I was lucky to be supported by the public administration here, but I'm sure that this doesn't happen in the all places in the country where the authorities could not. Then the volunteers, people who want to help, they did a very good job and got involved. I think empathy is the key. I've always supported women and their fights, our fight for our rights, because as you know, the rights gained are not always certain, that we have to watch them, to guard them, and always fight back when our rights are threatened and everything we gain. Women who come from Ukraine, they were the ones who were taking care of the old relatives, of the sick relatives, and their children, their husbands, basically the whole family, according to the patriarchal model. And then now they are the ones who ran away and came here with children, came among strangers, and they have no idea about language. Even the alphabet is different. Well, they sometimes they travel back to Ukraine and put themselves in danger just to take care of the relatives that were remained there, because the men could not exit the country, the men in their families, and all the relatives also did not exit the country. And you know that women never leave relatives behind. So they go back, take care of them, come back to Romania again with children. And here they're the ones who have to earn money to send them there in Ukraine for their relatives, to take care of the children, and all of this in a new world among strangers and facing new laws, new social model that maybe some of them never saw or heard about it before. We are here the whole day in the center, the whole night. We have shifts, but it's overwhelming to see these people facing injustice, to watch their struggles, their pain, and their uncertainty in their lives, their frustration, their anger, their hopes, and changing hopes to tears. And it's really overwhelming. but we are a country at border with Ukraine, and I think we have a huge responsibility to strengthen the faith of the Ukrainian people in humanity.
So thank you all for your attention, and I hope that everyone of us is doing something for everyone worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simona. It was very touching. We were very impressed by their testimonials. And congratulate you for managing to take the interviews and I don't know, making them feel comfortable to speak about without crying. Because we can imagine, we only imagine how they feel. Now we move further to Mena Case, who is cultural leadership trainer with global competency in education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, solution for focus coaching, intercultural trainer for global leadership and intercultural management for Forbes 500 companies. Living and working for the last 20 years in different parts of the world, Sweden, Russia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and Germany, to name a few. Awarding in 2011 and 2022 as Global Service Achievement Award for Outstanding Contribution in Trainings. She's in the advisory board of Refugee International School and a board member of the International Women Association. She's an avid communicator and active member in organizations such like Professional Women Network, being in the leading team for professional mentoring program. Her experience spans from training top management and leaders to dedicated time to empower and inspire future professionals and making a difference in education. Have the floor.
Thank you, everyone. As you see, I have here a map, and the pins are the places where I have lived and worked. Through this experience, I have come firsthand to the process of migration, integration, and others, and how each country tackles them and facilitate things. At the same time, as you see here, it says education and visibility as opportunities for refugees, but I would like to enlarge the scope to mention that not only is this about refugees, but about migrants, people in transition, asylum seekers, peoples in state of tolerance when their asylum petition has not been approved, and more. At the same time, we still see in the borders and at ocean, people dying in their search for a better life. And many of those are not mentioned, and here we are to give them a voice. As I said here, I carry with me the voices of those who were before me, and I speak for those who don't have a voice. The first thing that is needed is, we have heard what the governments have done, and here I want to highlight what the civil society and active civil society can do. The first one is visibility and a voice. The civil society can provide a platform in many ways, and I can see and mention examples here as the freelance photographer, Austrian freelance photographer, Monica Bomenauer, who every day posted a picture with the colors of the Ukrainian flag. And she did it more than 365 times because unfortunately the war is lasting more. This is a good platform to raise awareness. Many of these civil society did this on a volunteer base or investing their own resources, giving a visibility and a voice, because also most of the refugees, migrants, and others are people who stay in the periphery. Either while their documents are processed, they stay in places that are remotely from the city. They don't have the connection or internet, so for example, or language to be able to promote their visibility. Another thing that I have seen is useful. It has been, for example, radio programs that are done by communities in their own language to provide information. And at the same time, activities, again, that gives them visibility. The next part is adaptability, education, and continuity. And here I would like to highlight the work of teachers. This is the Ukrainian school in Bucharest, and I have here teachers Anna, Masha, and Anna. I have to admire that in their own process, while dealing with their own transition, they were still giving classes online to their students. While things that we have to think of short-term, medium-term, and long-term solutions, but we have to think about continuity. Education is key for integration and for continuity. I have to mention, for example, teachers Ben and Wendy on their own time created an NGO who provides mentoring classes for students. At the same time, I have to say high school students who volunteer and go to places where, for example, people in state of tolerance are living. Containers in Bucharest. And because, as I said, they don't have visibility, not many people know, they don't have documentation, they don't have access to education and more. Giving them a sense of normality or helping them in continuing their education is key. And also, for example, another thing that helps are WhatsApp groups within the community who help with information, data, and more. Another initiative that is active from the civil society is the International Women's Association, the Iowa Entrepreneur Portable Careers. In the process of international relocation, people have to reinvent themselves professionally. In the Iowa Entrepreneur, there is a possibility to start as an entrepreneur, to reinvent yourself professionally, or to do labor retraining. Something that is key also is that the International Women Association hosts coffee mornings. And coffee mornings can be a very important place for bonding, for connecting with other people that have similar doubts. Settling in a pace and orientation takes a lot of energy, and a meeting with fellow international women in this case helps you to make and speed up this process faster. Having an occupation, volunteer, or work is key for the integration, assimilation of people, and it really gives sense and belonging. Now let's think a bit of the longer term solution. And here we have the education for the challenges of the present and the future. What we see is an example of the Rage International School, who provides the CE learning, social, emotional, and ethical learning together with Emory University. This is something that is done for a long time. As you see here, more than 2,350 schools around the world are joining this. What's more important, Emory University has means free of access. That means that any teacher could access to this training and provide it at the school. What are we talking about here? Many of you who are listening now, probably when you study subjects, separated subjects, math, history, and so on. What this approach to education does is that we look at the challenges of the future. Our children will have to define if a climate refugee counts as a refugee or not, economical refugees and others. These are decisions that they will have to make. And here I want to show you, bringing the work to the classroom. Working together with the Sustainable Development Goals is key. We don't have to put them as a separate subject, but we have to show them in class. Here in the picture you see the students, one class, the grade 6, was studying active Earth, and they have had a natural disaster. Their classmates their peers from class 5 welcomed them as refugees in the classroom, provided medical support. They make service to them, interviews, gave them food. 2 weeks later, after they have this activity, the earthquake in Turkey and Syria happened. So you can imagine that when we have to ask these children to raise funds or give to the people in the earthquakes, it was nothing unknown, because there's a point here. In order for creating a more empathetic society, we have to bring external realities to the children and let them know how to act. Because of these kind of activities, we're talking a more grounded and long-term solutions. And I have to thank the teachers, the staff, and the coordinators that I interviewed for this presentation, and they mentioned some key elements. For example, exposure to other cultures is key, and not only to folkloric dress and costume events, but something deeper. Also in the social emotional learning, you learn about systemic self-reflection, consistent self-regulate. So when you are aware of those emotions, it's easier. When you have the children in your classroom that has to spend 8 hours in a class, not always knowing completely the language, but where everything that they knew disappeared. Their favorite ice cream shop, their known people, their favorite park, their sense in others, they will have behavioral issues or learning problems. And what's the first grounding element for learning is to feel safe and loved. So beyond the curriculum development, we have to work into this part, and this work is already done. When you have embedded social emotional learning in the curriculum, then it's not far-fetched to think that people will be more prone to help and collaborate. So as a summary, to have a civil active society, you have to embed this from a long time. You have to join forces, and that's the way to make things happen. Giving migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and people in tolerance the opportunity to mingle, to socialize, to integrate, and to get information is key. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mena, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. And yes, you mentioned education as the main topic in order to improve our behavior and our attitude towards expat people and refugees and all international issues. I would like also to mention a few things about students from Ukraine, because the Romanian government welcomed them in terms of they could be enrolled without documents, without any evidence that they have been students in Ukraine. And as I work in academia and as vice director for international relations, I used to work like this. We faced the problem also with international students that were in Ukraine at the time. They were all over the world, but they studied in Ukraine. So the Romanian government should have them too, no matter they were from other continents. So I think Romanian society, civil society, the government and governmental bodies and so on, managed to put together all these things. Of course, there are a lot of things to be done, but as you mentioned, we have to start from the basis of the education and to develop more the volunteering activities. And that's why the Association for Dialogue and Universal Values, who helped us to come here and supported us and made our voices to be heard by the whole world, have already done a lot of volunteering activities concerning the educational matters and also tolerance. As we asked you from the very beginning, if you have any questions, you can write them in chat, because we cannot answer to all of them, but we can take a few of them. So you are welcome to ask questions, and we will answer to them. So I will first one is like this. You spoke about how some issues faced by Ukrainian women living in Bucharest can be solved by the local administration, while others require action by the central government's institutions. Can you tell us what can the central government to do help Ukrainian women and promote their empowerment and integration?
Yes, I can take that question.
Okay. Please, Corina.
There are quite a number of things that the central government institutions can do to help the integration of Ukrainian women. And I would like to just go through some of the most important things that they lack and need, and that we constantly communicate about with the central authority. So acknowledging their previous work qualifications in situations where women were forced to leave the country without their certifications, their diplomas, or other papers that they need to get employed. Another very important thing for the independence of women and their ability to enter the workforce is to do more to integrate children in the Romanian education system. At the moment, they are allowed to attend the Romanian classes as audience, but Ukrainian children don't understand the Romanian language and they don't understand the alphabet even. They can do more to promote trusted sources of information because in a large city like Bucharest, for example, we have Ukrainians taking their information from multiple sources, and that makes it difficult for them to filter which sources of information are reliable and which sources of information are updated. They can help work with experts to prevent human trafficking, which I think is a very major concern for everybody. Initiate more communication campaigns to promote favorability and empathy towards Ukrainian women in the general population. And I would also add a more timely reimbursement of expenditures by the central government for services developed by local authorities.
I can mention something to the question. So it's just an angle. One of the speakers spoke about the similarities between the psychology of victims of domestic violence and refugee women. One thing that I want to highlight is that in the process of asking for asylum, many of the interviews are done in the entry point, that is at the border or in the airport. In many of the European countries, this interview is the one that works for people to get or not get the asylum status and refugee status. Now, this interview is done usually by an authority. There's usually no translator. And many of the European countries, after this interview has done, you cannot add anything else. Now, what happens is that many women have been raped and they cannot tell this in front of their family members or others. So from the beginning, the process is not taking into account the real reasons. And many of these women will have to bear these and sometimes get the rejection. And then there's a progressive, what I mentioned before, staying in the periphery. They don't learn the language, they don't participate. And once again, the school are a meeting point for parents. Parents of classmates to invite them to have a coffee, to socialize, to express, because that's the other thing, trust. From the beginning in this process, as an asylum seeker, you don't know who to trust. You don't know if you go to the doctor, if they have to report you and you will be deported. That's why, again, as you said, having a real source of information and creating more opportunities for them and advocating for the changes of the laws about asylum requests.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have one more question from Maria Jordan. Thank you very much to all the speakers today. All the presentations were informative and interesting. How are the women in education supported not only by the central government, but also by the civil societies and NGOs, so that strong and well-educated future citizens are prepared for the future? Are any sustainable development goals related to education in Romania? Okay, to the question concerning NGOs. Mona, if you also.
Are any sustainable development goals related to education in Romania? Yes. Should I answer?
Yes, please.
So the first one is, you have, just give me a second. I can mention cases of school that were already working with water. That's one of the development goals. And children, I can mention they are already having and asking eco-sustainable schools and practices. So children are already in touch with this. Gender equality. Let me give you an example. In the IPC program, you learn by units. So instead of learning the discipline separate, you learn, for example, fashion. When learning fashion, the children are calculating how many glasses of water you need to dye a blue jean or one pant. They're calculating what is the salary of one of the factory workers of the big companies in remote countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and others, and what can you do with that kind of salary. Then they're calculating the effect of the waste of clothes and where they go. So in that way, the sustainable goals are embedded, and there are presentations done for teachers. We have done that already in 2 schools, so that the teachers are promoting this and not adding extra work to the teachers, but looking at their curriculum and see where we can embed the sustainable goals. That again are not abstracts, but these are the questions that the future professionals will have to answer.
We have one more. What is currently happening in Bucharest to promote positive relationships between the general public and refugees, to make sure that the residents continue to support the services.
Yes, I can also take that question. After, I think, July of last year, all the social services that we developed for Ukrainian mothers and children living in Bucharest are also dedicated to vulnerable categories of local residents. You know, children from poor families also benefit from daycare centers that we open for Ukrainian children. Psychological support is also available for victims of domestic violence, for example, or human trafficking, and so on. And so all the funding that has gone into managing the Ukrainian crisis, all the funding that we've got from our international partners is also going to help the vulnerable people of Bucharest. And I think that they see this as an opportunity to further their own welfare. And it's no longer a matter of us versus them, you know. It's no longer a matter of why are you only doing things to help refugee women when we have our own women in trouble at home. We integrate the services because our long-term goal is to integrate these families and help them mingle with the local population, help children integrate with peers from of Romanian origin, obviously. And so this is the way to go forward. This is the way we use the funding. This is the way we develop the services in an integrated way. And I think people are responding very positively to that.
Yeah, waiting for new questions, but meanwhile, I would like to add the fact that not only governmental bodies or NGOs were involved in all this work, also anonymous people who took care of refugees. For example, they offered their houses, they offered their cars, they offered money, they waited for refugees at the borders and take them home. I know many cases of people who really helped offering their own homes or also managers of hotels and so on that hosted a lot of refugees for free. I want also to mention a person I know, Dr. Alina Botesat, who, for example, has her stomatology cabinet in Constanța, and she helped a lot of refugee people because she's from Chișinău, she speaks Russian, so she could help them because this is one of the main problem for them because they cannot speak, for example, English in order to talk about their needs. And besides this, also going back to academia, I also want to mention the fact that we really supported professors and people working in research and so on. We invited them for a short period of time to be our guests in order to support their research, their teaching and so on. So these are just few mentions about anonymous people who really help with this. We have one more question. I'm very concerned about these women in the mental health and inner peace besides their huge need for things to carry in their daily lives. What is provided for these women for their psychological needs? I also wonder how the mental situation of these refugees, especially women and children, is so difficult and how they are coping with them. Not to mention, it must be really hard on them, both when there is not much hope for the future.
I think I can answer that. As I said, every shelter has a person that helps with psychological counseling. In Romania, regarding the refugees was a little bit hard because it is shown that hasn't the same effect psychological counseling in English as it has done in Ukraine. So we managed to cover this in all our shelters and for the children too. So we are in process.
Another question. We have another question. Right? Another question, how do you see the approach of both state authorities and the civil society towards the refugees from Ukraine in relation to refugees from other parts of the world? I'm thinking of refugees from African countries or Afghanistan or Libya.
Yeah, so this is a very particular situation because we're used to having refugees in third world countries. And we've actually had difficulties with international humanitarian agencies who are used to working in such environments. Romania is a member of the European Union. It's a NATO member. It's not a lawless state. We have a strong local and central authority, and we've had quite a difficult time explaining the way the institutions work so that we complement each other instead of doing things separately and inefficiently. So this has been a learning process both for us as local authorities as well as for international agencies, and it's definitely a first to see such a huge wave of refugees in European countries.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would like to add that one of the issues here is the existing law that the asylum can only be requested in the point of entry, which puts a burden in the bordering countries, and it makes an imbalance with the countries that are not point of entry, who take a completely different approach, where you have places completely overwhelmed, unable to show these things. Again, countries deciding when and how the refugee status is given. And at the same time, people who stay in a state of tolerance who should be looked at. There is another question.
Yes.
Are refugees open?
Yeah, I can take because. Just are there institutional hardships for Ukrainian women?
Okay, so can you respond to that? So we have to have in mind that Ukraine is not in EU. So it's hard, and the refugee status is not the same as in the rest of the world. Ukrainian refugees, they have a temporary stay permit for a year in a US state, EU state. So after that, they have to make another documents and another and go through hardship again and again and again. So that's why I think it's important for authorities, national, international, to push for the integration of Ukraine in the European Union. Also, I know in Romania, yes, in Bucharest, the everything is working very good and beautifully among between NGOs and administration. But at local levels, in some cities, the institutions are they tend to be kind of closed and not open to work together with the national institution and also with NGOs. And this is kind of hard for Ukrainian women and for them to get the opportunities that they need.
And our businesses are the refugees.
And yeah,
I'm open to specialists.
yes. The next question is, are the refugees open to specialist suggestions? Are they willing to accept help and integrate in a new environment?
Before, I think we have to look at the before of this question, which is what happens in a process of change and abrupt transition. In the first place, there's a loss of identity. And this can bring in the person various states of mind: denial, minimization, rejection. So I think everyone is open to suggestions, but first of all, we have to work on the transition part, on the grieving, the loss of identity and the loss of opportunities. I think even we see in other cases, not necessarily refugees, when we see people migrating and in international assignment, not able to work at your full, not being able to be the 100% version, not being able, having to communicate in a different language, it generates an initial rejection. So I would say many times there is a judgment that they're not willing to integrate. And then we have to separate concepts of integration and assimilation.
Yeah.
So I think one change of view is also what an extended migrant population can do for an economy, how we can tackle into those things, explaining what these specialist suggestions will be. I think immediately what I have seen in other countries, for example, is the possibility to learn something, but showing a progression to that and not get stuck in an eternal program that leads nowhere. So I think the question is not only are they willing to accept, help, and integrate, but are we willing to integrate them? Are we willing also to go the other way? And are we willing to stop seeing the other as a foreign thing and create a more common multicultural society? I think that's the starting point.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one more question. I wonder how the media reports on refugee acceptance. The public can be greatly influenced by the media. not get information, but in general, what position is the media reporting from? Is it always reported from the perspective of peace journalists? In Korea, I am curious because in media tends to prefer stimulating and negative articles rather than peace news because they actually make money.
What's that? So it's a very good question. Important as well. So, yeah, of course, they are divided, media is divided. So on one hand, we have ethical approach and a good representation of refugee voices. And on the other hand, we have like Choi says, we have media that tends to prefer fake news or overstimulating content or oversharing of pictures with from the battlefields just to impress and create panic and fear. Also, I've seen reports in media about the Ukrainian men as thieves, rapists. So yeah, it kind of gives us the power and the opportunity to choose what we want to believe, what we want to think about this war. I think, in my opinion, as an expert and journalist, that regarding war and war in Ukraine and events like that, that there isn't a gray area. It's you are on the side with the perpetrator and the abuser, or on the side of the victims, survivors, and the one that are struggling to get out and resist and live another day. So that's why it's important that when we see fake news or journalists that tend to use manipulation techniques, because there are lots also in Romania, but in all the country there are journalists that are using manipulation techniques, lots of them, and we have to just be aware of this and sanction them. I think this is my approach. I would write a letter to that journalist, or an open letter maybe, and just have my say into this. Peace journalism is an ideal approach, I guess, and in my opinion, I think all journalists would have to work for this. But yeah, unfortunately, peace news aren't so good for making money, because we as a society, and I refer like the world itself, is used to negative stories, negative news, and that's why it's hard for the journalists that are doing the ethical work and they're representing the voices of the survivors. It's hard for them to push their stories through, because there's so much negativity, and because it's in our psyche, I guess, to kind of be attracted and to keep in mind the negative stories. And yeah, some parts of media are using that for their interest.
Okay, thank you very much, Simona. We will end our time here. Very happy to be here with you for the 67th session of the Commission of the Status of Women here at the United Nations. We will meet the delegation from Ukraine. There are 20 delegates. They are present here with their panel. Who is run by Svetlana Salamatova. So we will meet her later, and we will try to develop new projects and to have new inputs in future about this emotional and a sensitive topic concerning not only Ukrainian refugees, but all international refugees. Thank you very much again for being with us. We also thank for being here with our sponsors. Again, the Association for Dialogue and the Universal Values, Romania International Institute, and also the Journalists and Writers Foundation. Thank you very much for everything. Goodbye.